What up, everybody? I know you guys are stressed about the minion section, but I have a warning for you guys. Well, my opinionated warning. I don't think minion is going to be the problem. I think it's going to be the non-legendary mutant section. So in this video, I want to talk about our non-legendary mutants, how that non-legendary tag is affecting these teams that I plan on using, some thoughts, the scourges that are going to affect them the most, and then looking at some data mine nodes that we're not going to spend too much time on that because it is data mine and could be completely off. But it's going to give us some ideas of problems we might be facing. So let's start this off by talking about teams you probably have built. You probably have Astonishing built because they've been the raid team up until this Death Scourge when Archangel and the Death Seed replaced them. You probably have Unlimited built because they're a Horseman team and they are the best Crucible team ever. And you probably have Weapon X built because they've been the best War offense team up until Underworld. They had a good 6 to 8 months where they were rocking that tag. I guess Gamma came before Underworld. I can't really remember. Regardless, you probably have them built up. They're good in all modes. Now we have mutant teams that you might have built for Crucible. Uncanny, X Factor, hopefully not X-Force. Really, we're just looking at hero mutant teams here. Uncanny proved to be an amazing Crucible team. X Factor, the same thing. They've been great in taking out Gamma, has the Uncanny. The Dad Bros in particular have been great on defense, causing people to pull their Infinity Watch or pull their Wakanda so that they don't get run over by the extremely powerful Dad Bros. So hopefully you got some of them built. Now we got some mutant villain teams. We have Brotherhood, super old, outdated team. Magneto's not really a part of that team anymore. It is what it is. We have Marauders, C tier war defense team. Madeline and Emma have some interest there, but we'll get into that. The team itself, I feel like, is going to struggle. Then we have Death Seed, the newest mutant team, the best stats, crazy kits. Let's talk about how they get affected. So there we go. That's all of our teams. Let's talk about the teams that get broken up, though. Astonishing X-Men gets thrown in the dumpster without Jubilee. Without Mallrat, they're not doing their assists. They're not getting their speed bar on kill. They don't have blinds. They don't have that ultimate stun, turbine rewind slow. Jubilee is the heart and soul of that team. Without Jubilee, that team is garbage. I'm sorry. If you only have your Astonishing X-Men team built, you're going to struggle. You should definitely start investing now. Weapon X also gets completely trashed. Without Omega Red, that would be bad enough, but they also lose Lady Deathstrike because she is a tech character. Lady Deathstrike has a phenomenal kit with her speed and turn meter rewind on turn number 1. You're not going to get to use that. Weapon X, garbage. We'll see what we can scrap up from them. Brotherhood, we're going to lose Magneto. I'm hiding him. And we're going to lose Juggernaut, the Mystic. But as I said earlier, they're kind of out anyway, so who cares? Death Seed, we are losing Magneto. We're not going to be able to use Archangel. That becomes a big problem. We'll see if we can make use of those 3 new characters. Though I have my doubts, mostly because they lose a lot from their passives. Uncanny loses Phoenix. That's a huge blow. Phoenix protects them with stealth. She does defense down when she dies and goes Dark Phoenix. She has huge buff clear when she's Dark Phoenix. That is a very big blow. And without her first presence, Magic doesn't resummon a Dark Phoenix. So that's a big blow to Uncanny. Unlimited loses Rogue, which is obviously a very big deal. But if you faced Unlimited after burning Rogue's abilities, you know they can still smack. So Unlimited, big hit, but not in the dumpster. They're still pretty good. Gambit is a huge monster there. So mutant teams that are unfazed. The Marauders, completely unfazed. I still have my doubts about them. X Factor, completely unfazed. They're a 4-person team. X-Force, completely unfazed. They didn't need to have a character taken away to be dumpster. So they're garbage. So what do we have for scraps? Cable, some interest there because of his speed, but he's so squishy. Even if you have him jacked up 7 red stars, teal gear, he still gets one shot. So I have a problem even trying to consider him. X-23, on the other hand, I think does have some potential because of her speed mechanics and because of her on-turn heal. Nemesis, who we kidding? He looks like Omega Red. He looks like an amazing character. So much health steal. He does that slow to everyone on his ultimate. I believe he's either reducing damage or increasing damage done when targets have bleed. He looks like a very good character. I haven't actually unlocked him yet, so I kind of feel sad about that. He might play a big part here. Wolverine, since the Weapon X rework, he hits super hard, and with Phoenix no longer able to be on the team, he might slide in there. Psylocke also has that uncanny tag. She can also protect them. She might also take over the Phoenix spot. Beast, he still has healing. He still gives energy. He still gives offense up, especially to that uncanny team for the big explosions. I can see him replacing Phoenix too. And then we have Sabretooth. He does have that Marauder tag. He hits like a truck. We'll see if he can kind of revitalize that Marauder team. So that's our scraps. What are my teams? What am I going to do? I know everyone is asking me that. I like these 4 teams, though I really only like the top 3. The 4th one, I can kind of see being okay because Madeline, if she actually gets to use her abilities, is a very interesting character. But I think the value of Emma plugged into one of the top 3 teams overweighs everything Marauders can bring. Because Marauders, they're not going to spawn with defense up. They're super squishy. They do no damage. The higher difficulties we're trying to accomplish, the enemies are going to be hitting super hard. Without defense up, without their war buffs, I feel like Marauders is just going to get wiped off the board real quick. So I would almost rather just plug out Emma, throw her somewhere else for her passive, because she's going to help us with some of the more difficult Scourges. So I don't have them numbered in like ranked. I just have them numbered. So I'm not saying X Factor is the best mutant team. It's just one of my 3 favorite teams. So X Factor does a lot of self-healing. The Dad Bros heal, I think, 20% per turn. Multiple Man is healing for 5% whenever a dupe dies. Polaris is the odd man out there. She doesn't get any healing, but she does get Barrier, which will help in a big way. X23 also does self-healing, and while the Dad Bros are getting their speed from doing crits, they're doing so much damage along the way that X23 can come in. She can give them crits too. She's hitting multiple times. You might want her as a striker so that she can actually finish characters off that might have a death proof. We'll see how that goes, but I think that's a very strong team. Depending on how the nodes look, Emma might slot in over X23 or even over Multiple Man, just so that you get to go first if we need to nuke somebody right away. Then we have the Uncanny team. I have it with Beast right now, but I could see it with Psylocke. I could see it with Wolverine. Beast to me is going to give offense up though. So if we're looking for them to completely annihilate a wave, that offense up can help. One thing that's super interesting about the Uncanny team is they are all heroes. Nodes 3 and 4 does have a hero tag. If we have the ability to beat half of a node on the hero section, and then whatever team we're using dies, we can go in there with our Uncanny for the cleanup and start building up charges. So that when we do our first non-legendary mutant node, nodes 6 or 7, maybe Storm can ult right out the gate and just kill everybody. Maybe Beast has his ultimate ready to go. He gives everyone offense up. You Storm ult. Maybe there's a 10-person wave in the first node. Gone. And we've just trivialized at least one of the 2 nodes, and we can struggle session through the rest. That would be great. Same thing would go for Cyclops, right? We have Magic and Colossus there together because Colossus does give defense up to the entire team on spawn with either Phoenix or Magic. So that's helpful there. I can see Wolverine coming in and replacing if you're not worried about taking some opening damage, especially again if we can prep his ultimate and he can go in and just take somebody out real quick. I think that'd be really cool. Then we have Unlimited. I don't think there's much to say here. They're going to be the tankiest option. They're actually going to be able to take a hit. They do have a lot of burst damage in their own right with Gambit and Sunfire. Again, if we could take Gambit into those hero nodes and prep his ultimate, and we can take Beast in, and maybe we sub Beast in with the Uncanny instead. He gives offense up to Gambit, and Gambit just lets it fly, so you don't have to wait for Sunfire to do a special. I can see that being very powerful too. So I do think that the Unlimited and the Uncanny team have the ability to annihilate waves and trivialize it, whereas X Factor has the ability to go in there and start snowballing. They just do so much AoE they can get through it. And I kind of feel like Emma's going to play a part in one of those 2 teams, Unlimited or X Factor, to get the ball rolling because they do start out pretty slow. So I do have Marauders number 4. Probably shouldn't have had that. So who do I have on reserves? I got Psylocke on reserve. I think she's a great character with her new turn meter rewind, defense down on her basic. That's very, very powerful. And she's pretty tanky, especially on spawn. Then we have Nemesis. We talked about that a little bit. He looks like Omega Red. I just don't know where he would fit in here. I almost want to find a way to do the 3 Death Seed members with Dark Beast, and maybe we can put Emma there, or maybe we do something like Sinister Strife, something like that, and it might be good enough just to start a node, maybe to finish a node, something like that. I think that could be very powerful. It's hard to like look at his kit and not say, I want to do that. because his kit looks awesome. Dark Beast sadly loses so much outside of Raid, and since he only has 2 Death Seed members, he only has a 50% chance to do the triple tap stuff. So that would be a lot of RNG, but I could see that playing a factor as well. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Mystique. Yes, I did sub her off the Marauders team if I decide to use that team, but Mystique's ultimate is very interesting. If there is a super problematic character on spawn for some of these nodes, we can send in a burner team with Mystique, have Mystique ultimate that character, and have her own team kill her since their stats are going to be crazy. That's something that I had to do in the Famine Scourge the first time we did it, taking out, I believe it was Emma on that first mutant node or the second mutant node, and it worked beautifully. So we want to keep that in the back of our mind. So that's it. That's my teams. That's my rationale for it. But what I'd like to do is quickly look at the Scourges. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because we won't really know how these Scourges are affecting us until we are in the nodes and we see the actual composition. One thing I do think our mutant teams will struggle with is the enemies being buffed. So there's a lot of things here that gives them buff. From Death Proof to flipping debuffs to getting heals to the Fortifier on the Butterfly Effect Scourge. If there's a Fortifier enemy and they use their ultimate, boom, everything everywhere. And then they have the When It Rains, so when enemies get a positive effect, it increases the duration of their other positive effects up to 3. So we might get into the case, if we're not quick enough, where our enemies have 30, 40 buffs. And the only character on the mutant squad that's not a legendary that I see really handling that is the Emma ultimate. We only have one Emma. And again, I don't think I want to use her Marauders. I just don't think they will snowball or do enough damage. And then I think you're going to get randomly clocked in the face if you use them. So that is one thing I do think our mutant teams struggle with, is controlling the enemy's buffs. Other than that, we are going to have a lot of anti-healing on. A lot of our mutants do self-healing. I think Beast is really the only traditional healer that we're going to have here. So like Dad Bros do 20%. X23 I think does 10. Multiple Man when a dupe dies does 5. Wolverine I think he does 10 or 15 or something like that. Gambit does his drain, and I think he gets some on turn as well. So we're going to be nerfing them a little bit there. But I don't see anything crazy that screams to me your mutants aren't going to work here. The one I do somewhat worry about is a conjunction of 2 of them. It's Vanguard mixed with Look at Me. So Vanguard is when an enemy character has taunt, all other enemies gain 15,000 armor. And Look at Me is on enemy fortifier spawn, gain taunt. That would throw a huge wrench into my uncanny idea where Storm would come in and ultimate right away. Because if there's a fortifier enemy and they gain taunt, all the enemies now have 15,000 armor, and I'm not sure Storm ultimate will get through that depending on how many charges she has. If that's the case, we'll have to find a way that a character goes before Storm with some skirmisher or with a buff clear on their basic, and they can take out that taunt, reducing the armor, and then we get to go do business. So those are some Scourges that I look at when I'm thinking on the non-legendary mutant side. There's probably other things I should be thinking of, but we got to know the nodes. Speaking of the nodes, we do have some data mined information. I think there's been some whispers that it may not be correct, but the reason I want to bring this up is just to look at some potential problems and how the mutant tag could solve them. And the big issue is speed. The mutant teams aren't super fast, with the exception of the Dad Bros. If you get a crit, then you can start popping off. But if we do have a character like a Node 6 with a Spider Weaver, that's 127 speed, we need to control her before she gets her charges off, or we're in huge trouble. We would then have to use Unlimited, because at least Gambit would eat through those charges. So how would we get through that? Again, Emma. So Emma is the answer to controlling the enemy's debuffs if it gets too out of control. And she's the answer to making sure you get to start the fight. Rather than having to take hits and then rebalance, you get to start the fight. Same thing for Node 7. If we have a Nakia and a Koye, those are very quick characters. Thank God there's no Shuri. A Kestrel, I think Kestrel's like 123. Sam Wilson's at 120, so he's pretty quick too. Most of our mutants are sub 120 speed, which I know is crazy, but Emma is gonna be so important. to this Scourge. So keep that in mind. If you don't have Emma level 90 already, I wouldn't hate the idea of suggesting that. I don't actually like making suggestions at all, so I'm not. But if you decide to bring Emma all the way up, I don't think that's bad. And I don't hate the idea of making her a fortifier either, so she can make use of that butterfly effect and make sure she's barriered up all the time. But yeah, guys, so that's what we got for the mutant section. I do think it's going to be the hardest section. I think it's going to be the one that tests our roster the most. It's very similar to that skill section where we used so much of our roster to get through it. I think that'll be the case here. Unfortunately, we do lose a lot of teams. X-Force sucks. Astonishing is going to suck without Jubilee. Marauders, I'm not a huge believer in. So we do get tested there. But hopefully, you've made use of these mutant teams during your crucible moments in this season and this continuing season, and you'll be okay. But if not, just know that I will be testing the nodes as soon as I get the option to, and as soon as I can relay any information I know to you, I will do so. Until then, bye-bye.